Oh man, guys, I've got some incredible news. I've got some bad news. Okay, the incredible news is that I sat down with Jake Barraclough from the YouTube channel I Ran Japan, and it was maybe the best chat that I've had yet on the channel. The bad news is that the audio is a little bit bumpy. Okay, the Wi-Fi in Japan in Jake's apartment wasn't so great, so you might want to go into your settings, turn on the subtitles, unless you get one of those brains that can just kind of figure out all of the gaps. Anyway, I do hope you enjoy this conversation I had getting to know Jake. All right, today's guest is a triple threat. I do not know if he can sing, I do not know if he can dance, but he can run. Holy shit, he can run. So, super fast. Secondly, he lives in one of the coolest places on earth, which is also in the name of his YouTube channel. So to complete the triple threat, he is an amazing storyteller and has a smashingly successful YouTube channel called Ran to Japan. Please welcome Jake Barraclough. Did I say that right?
Too much, too much. Yeah, I don't know about half of that, but I take it. Thank you.
Well, I should have put that there's a fourth thing, it's a badass name, Bearclaw, it just, and Jake, maybe the most approachable first name in the English language, everybody knows a Jake, but Jake Glass, everybody loves Jake Glass.
Jake's an easy one. The Barraclough's always a little tricky, the pronunciation. I think Americans especially, it's a bit of an unknown one. But yeah, you put it.
So I wanted to talk about three things with you in particular. First of all, is the training that you're doing. Secondly, Japan, naturally. And the third one is Jake, just getting to know a little bit more about Jake. So we'll start with training. I wrote all of these questions down just because I have ADD and I don't want to tangent right off the earth. The first question is, what is the most bizarre or unexpected training advice that you have received in Japan?
So the one that a lot of people will just find very surprising is the mileage. They hit crazy numbers out here, especially compared to runners in the West. I mean, back home, yeah, like 100 miles a week seen as pretty big. Like here, that's rookie numbers. Yeah, 100 miles a week, you're not getting close. So for them, they set the benchmark as 1,000 kilometers a month for like the top sort of any of the pro marathoners, which works out as about 150 miles a week. Yeah, all the kind of top pro guys are hitting. And that's basically what I've been hitting as well. I've kind of bought into that philosophy, decided I'm going all in on the mileage. I seem to make a huge difference. Like you just seem to get so strong.
Sweet. And so what kind of mileage did you start at when you moved to Japan, and kind of how did you work up? What are you currently running at?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of a different background. So my main sort of focus, I've been running for ages, kind of casually, but then at 25 years old, I decided to go all in on the running. But before then, I've been doing a lot of mixed martial arts, like MMA. And I was probably running maybe 60 miles a week. And I decided, yeah, 2 years ago, pretty much to just go all in. I'd actually just come back from a surgery on my hip. So I'd had 8 months off. So when I decided to go all in, it was starting literally from zero. And then I think in the space of 6 months, I went from 0 miles a week to 130, maybe. So it's a pretty aggressive build. And then I've stabilized at about 150 now. Occasionally we'll pop it up to, I've gone up to about 170 at the peak. But yeah, I'd say like 150, that's the classic now.
That's awesome. And do you train with anybody, or do you know somebody who is at that elite level where they're just pulling not just doubles, triples, they don't sleepwalk, they sleep zone two, they just run all the time?
You hear some, especially some of the old school guys, like kind of in the 90s to early 2000s, during their base phase, they'd knock out like 50-mile runs, even upwards to like 70, 80-mile runs, like on these training camps. So they just go completely mental. And actually, some of the women, so the Japanese women were unreal, winning like medals in the Olympics, sort of 90s, 2000s. And they apparently were on like, what was it, 1,200K a month. So that's got to be like 170, 180 miles a week. So yeah, they were next level.
That's insane. I guess we should back up a little bit and get some set points for you. I said you're a really fast guy, and I guess fast is relative. But what is your, for to like bookend, what is your current marathon PR, and then what are you aiming to improve to run to?
So the current one in my marathon debut was 2:17. So that was last year. And then I'm running Tokyo Marathon in March and going for a 2:12.
All right, so now that's mileage. Mileage is this massive lever that you can pull, and I know another one would be speed. So, how do you integrate speed into that mileage, or do you feel like you've already maxed out the top end speed to the point where it's going to get where it's going to get, and now you need to pull the mileage lever, or is there still a little bit of room left on the speed?
For me, there's not a lot of speed there compared to my marathon. Short distances pretty weak. And the weird thing as well, I remember before training specifically for like the 1500, the 5K, I'm running so much slower than I am now. I mean, I ran my 5K PR and my 10K PR just during marathon training. So I think for my kind of slow twitch type runner, I've kind of gone all in with the strength stuff, like the long tempos, the mileage, and really that seems to also bring my speed up, like my short distances. Um, so instead of trying to focus in on that real short stuff, I find it's just injury risk. If I'm trying to rip around a track, it's a nightmare for my calves. I get a lot of sort of problems with that. Whereas I can seem to happily run, yeah, huge mileage without any problems, and that seems to get me strong.
Now, I haven't seen anything about this. I've been watching your channel, and this is a weird thing too. Like, I just found your channel maybe a month and a half ago, and you are already at 20,000 plus subscribers. And all I do every day is wake up and go for a run, and I listen to running podcasts and running YouTube. It's like, what's up, chat? You know what I mean? Like, what you're not sending the algo's not sending me Rant to Japan. This is nonsense. This is such a great channel that I'm like the target audience for it. So I've watched all your videos, but I didn't see anything about it. Are you coached? Do you have a coach currently?
Now I'm uncoachable. I like to think. I probably, I mean, maybe in the future I could do it, but the trouble is I've been kind of self-coaching for so long now. I feel like I know my body better than anyone, and I've got a real certain way about how I like to train. That I sort of, yeah, I have this idea in my head that I know best. Yeah, I think for the moment I'm happy with how it's going with my own sort of training, like experimenting. So I base a lot of my running off other runners' training plans. I look at, I study all the kind of top guys from now and before, like the old school runners, and so I've built a kind of plan around that that I think works best for me.
Yeah, sweet. That was actually my next question was like, how do you structure your work? How do you pick your workouts? Do you get on Chat GPT, Chat Daniels, and then, send me a good one and see what happens. But it looks like you've got a lot of resources to pull from there as well, living in Japan. So now to reach the massive mileage that you do run compared to a hobby jogger like myself running in that 60-mile range, does that require you to run 7 days a week, or do you take a day of rest?
Yeah, there's not a lot of rest going on. The actual rest days I found do me more damage than good. I've tried it in the past, but I find the next day, I think it's just got so used to that rhythm of just running twice every day. You suddenly do nothing, and it's like it just goes into like complete shutdown mode. I can barely get moving the day after. So for me, like a recovery day might be after like a week workout, maybe just 2 1 hour runs, and that helps me, I think, just flush the legs out. Like I come back feeling way better the next day than if I just sit around doing nothing. So it's kind of relative, but yeah, I have like relative rest days, recovery days in there.
Sweet. Now, in one of those videos, I swear I saw you say, and I don't know if I rewound this because I was like, wait, did he just say what? He was injured for like 6 to 9 months or something, and he rode a bike for 24/7, basically. Just spent hours on this bike, which I can't stand. I'll never be confused with a triathlete, but how much time did you spend on that bike, and do you cross train now?
It still gives me nightmares thinking back. Yeah, that's weird. genuinely the worst 8 months of my life. I hated every second of biking. Wasn't doing it for enjoyment whatsoever. It was purely just fitness. I could come back in great shape basically and get straight back into running. But yeah, I think the problem with that is I hated it so much that I don't think I can ever touch a bike again now. So let's just hope I never get injured badly because yeah, I don't know if I could go back to those dark times. But yeah, it was probably I think I was averaging 3 to 4 hours a day. I think I was probably 25 hours of biking a week at least. So it was basically like pro cycling numbers. The worst it was this hip injury, and so I wasn't allowed to go outside on a bike. So everything had to be on that fixed indoor bike because it was more controlled, like stable for my hip. So it was not, I couldn't even go and see like the scenery, bike around town, purely just like watching YouTube, Netflix. I completed the entire Netflix library during that time. So yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yikes. Yeah, no, not a huge cross. It's funny because it's usually for a lot of runners they see like anytime there's like cross training option, it's like, oh, rest day. Yeah, not not gonna do that. So, all right, well, let's switch to Japan a little bit here. So some questions I had about Japan. The diet fascinates me, and I was wondering, now that you switched to the Japanese diet, do you feel as a runner better fueled on the Japanese diet than before?
Yeah, I'd say I ate pretty clean in the UK. Actually, before, so I did my masters in America. I was in the South in Georgia State, and I noticed it massively then. So I was eating every day at the campus, like canteen, and just trying to find like a fresh vegetable was near impossible that hadn't been like deep fried or like covered in oil. I think that was the biggest difference coming to the UK. I noticed the diet was much cleaner. So then going and then across to Japan, it was pretty clean, but it wasn't like a massive change. A lot of just rice pretty much at every meal, some form of like fish, chicken, and then veg. So it's pretty simple, and the food is very good. Like you go out to any restaurant, you can get for basically $5, like a quality meal with like a few different plates on it. Like it's just crazy cheap. So the food's very, very good.
Yeah, you you went to school at the home of Chick-fil-A. There's like Chick-fil-A sauce
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
So yeah, good on you for staying strong there. So what's your favorite place to go, or what's your favorite thing to do in Japan, assuming you have any free time while you're in Japan?
Yeah, it's pretty full on with like the training and stuff. But I'd say for a marathon, I just love exploring different places. So what I've tried to do recently is just book a whole lot of random races, not necessarily target races, but use them as training. Because I do a lot of training on my own, I find that if I jump in a race, I can get a better effort. Like I'm surrounded by people. So I've over the last few months kind of booked all these different races around Japan and basically done it as like a mini trip. So I do the race, get training stimulus, and then I can go exploring the local like area. 'Cause there's so many cool places in Japan. Like you got these crazy mountains for like hiking and stuff. You've got yeah, these all shopping centres, like amazing food. The food is always a highlight, I'd say. So yeah, I'd say just using those races to like travel and explore. That's always a good highlight.
And so, if you could take one piece of the Japanese culture back to the UK, what would you do?
The one that immediately comes to mind is just how trustworthy people are. I absolutely love this. The fact that I can go to the park for a run, leave my phone, my wallet, my like £500 camera in a bag on a bench, and there'll be homeless people wandering around. There'll be tons of just Japanese people, obviously, like walking around the park. 2 hours later, after my run, it's still there. No one would even think about touching it, and it's just crazy how trustworthy people are. Um, that you wouldn't even dream of doing that in the UK. Like you put a bag down, 2 minutes later, that's gone if you turn your back. And I think that's something I've just got so used to here. I do love that factor, like that part of the culture.
That's cool. And has it does seem like the Japanese culture has really accepted you full on with open arms. So how would you say that that's accurate? Is Mizuno sending you free shoes? I mean, to what extent do you feel like they're all on board and very accepting? I know it's also a protected culture as well. Like you're not allowed to sign up for like the Ekiden or anything, but other than that, are they pretty accepting?
Yeah, they're very like welcoming. When I joined the team that I'm on, like this America team, they were super welcoming, like letting me in. I say the biggest thing is if you like show an interest in Japan and kind of there's a lot of like unspoken rules here and stuff that is very different to the West. Like if you kind of acknowledge that and don't try and come in with like a super, I don't know, like judgmental mindset, you kind of just go with the culture here, then I think people love it and they like that you are kind of respectful to them. So everyone's been pretty cool. Yeah, I've had no incidents really that I can think of like, yeah, anyone kind of disrespecting me as a foreigner or anything. People have been, yeah, super welcoming.
So were you big into the Japanese culture before you moved to Japan? I mean, did you used to watch anime, read manga, sleep on a Hello Kitty pillow? I mean, to what extent were you into the Japanese culture before that, or was it just the running?
When I joined this team, everyone was asking like, "Oh, why have you come here? Like, oh, you must like anime, right? And manga." I was like, "Nah, absolutely no interest." And they were just baffled because I think 90% of foreigners that come to Japan is for that reason. Whereas I could not care less. I've tried even to get into it for Japanese like listening practice. I think it'd be apparently it's quite good for actually learning, but yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me. So it was purely, I think yeah, basically 2 years ago when I went all in on the running, it was this book I read, The Way of the Runner, about this British journalist who comes to Japan, and it was pretty much because of that book. So he was explaining how deep the talent is here, how crazy the runners are in comparison to the West. They've got like hundreds of sub 2:10 marathon runners, whereas we're getting a few each year in the UK. It's similar in America, so they're just levels above in terms of depth. So I was just seeing it as, oh, this sounds like the perfect place. If I want to go all in on running, get as good as possible, Japan sounds like the place to be. I want to learn as much as I can about it. So that was pretty much the reason for coming.
You know, it's funny. My wife sends me TikToks and reels about come live over here, come live in Greece, come live over here. The cost of living in here in Taiwan is this, it's this. How is the cost of living in Japan? My wife is probably dying to know compared to, say, the UK or even the States.
Oh, she'll want to move out here when she hears it. It's crazy. Like probably a third of the cost of America or the UK. It's like insane just from rent to the food. Um, so yeah, just general like expenses. It's pretty good, especially the yen's so weak at the moment that when you convert it across to dollars or pounds, yeah, it goes a pretty long way.
She'll be excited to hear that. She used to be a teacher, but she goes on these chaperoned visits. So last year she went to Greece and Italy, and I think she's going out to Japan later this year. And I think on my birthday this month she's going out to Barcelona. So one of these times I know she's just gonna come back and like pull the trigger on a place, and we're gonna up. We might be neighbors one day, Jake. So you better watch out. So now let's switch over to Jake. Let's learn more about Jake. So if they made a movie about you, who's playing Jake Barraclough? Okay, is it Rupert Grint?
I think that was immediately my thought. I think it would have to be. He actually grew up and lived right near me when I was younger, like the same sort of town or whatever. So yeah, I feel like the red hair, the British accent, it can't be anyone else. It's meant to be.
All right. So, and you may have answered this next question at the beginning when I talked to you, like from the first question. But my next question was like, if Jake wasn't running marathons, like what profession would you have chosen?
Professional MMA fighter, 100%. That was what I wanted to do from about 20 to 25 years old. Um, I always set I want to make the UFC, like, I want to go all in on the MMA, the fighting. And it was only when I sort of realized I loved the sparring and the actual fighting part, but the training, like the drilling every day, it's probably 10% of it is the actual sparring in a ring with someone. Most of it is just drilling the moves, all these technical groundwork, the wrestling. and I found I didn't love it. It almost felt like a chore. Whereas I realized I never feels like that for running. I'm always like, "Oh, I'll happily go out for a run." It feels like an effort. So then I was like, if I'm gonna be going all in on something, I want this to be my profession. I've got to absolutely love doing it. I don't want it to feel like a job.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then I remember watching one of the videos where you had mentioned MMA, and saw some B-roll footage in one of your videos, and you're stout. You're looking stout. It's like, damn, Jake's thick. I was like, so how much did you weigh when you were doing MMA? And then like, how much do you weigh now? Did you lose a lot of weight, stacking all those miles or Ks?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Big unit before. For a run, I was definitely heavy. I guess yeah, my proper first marathon while I was sort of MMA training, I ran a 2:38, and I weighed, oh, I don't know the conversion. I mean kilograms. I was 80 kg. Oh, what would it be? 180 pounds? Maybe 175. I thought that was probably yeah my peak, about 175. And then now I'm down to 65 kg, which must be 140 about. So I probably lost around 40 pounds. And actually, I lost pretty much all of that while I was doing this insane biking regime. And that was kind of what I had in my head. It was like, why don't I just can't run? I can basically just absolutely murder myself on the bike, and I can afford to cut a bit of food as well because it's not impact sport. Running is a little dangerous if you're trying to hit crazy mileage. You don't want to be cutting back on the food. Whereas I pretty much just ate salads for 6 months, um, while yeah destroying myself on the bike, and managed to cut a lot of muscle weight because that's the hardest bit, losing all this upper body muscle. For me, it's easy to put on, so easy, but then losing it is a nightmare. So it's really rough trying to cut back. But it makes such a difference to running. Just like you're basically weighing yourself down when you're carrying a 20 kg, 40 pounds extra of muscle.
Yeah, we also did, just for anybody watching who does stone, it's 12, roughly 12 and three-quarter stone. So if you're if you're watching and you need to know the stone conversion on that too. So what's the ultimate goal here? What's the dream goal for running for you?
Yes, I want to um, basically get as good as I possibly can, reach my absolute talent limit. Um, so I mean, I'd love to go sub 210 for the marathon. I feel like that's a massive goal. Like a big number that, yeah, if I could dip under that, that's pretty elite. There's not many Brits that have done that. And because I don't really know how good I can be, I don't know where the limit is, but I just want to train as hard as I possibly can to get to that. And it would be unreal if I could represent GB, Great Britain, in some form of, I don't know, European champs. Like, obviously, the dreams, like Olympics, world champs, but the level's crazy. So I don't know how far I can get, but yeah, we're going to go all in.
Well, and I guess this will provide some context too. I mean, Kipchoge was running his fastest in his 40s. So how old are you now?
27. We got plenty of time.
Indeed, indeed. So then I want to ask Jake about the YouTube side of things because like I went to film school. I'm a retired B actor. I spent like my 20s in LA. And I love storytelling. And you're actually a really good storyteller. And I think that's fantastic. Do you have any history in the creative arts, whether it's writing, editing, directing, or any of that?
No, thank you, but no, none of that. My master's in America was in like business with a particular focus on sports marketing, and I think that was actually really useful in that I did. So for my main like project at the end, I was studying another business, so I looked at the UFC, like the biggest mixed martial arts organization, and it was basically looking at what they do so well, and pretty much came to the conclusion it was the storytelling factor, the fact that you can get behind all the fighters, not necessarily because even that they're a great fighter, but it's outside of the cage. You grow to like them, you grow to understand them because they tell these like incredible stories with these kind of documentaries and vlogs that they do building up to the fight. And I thought in running, there's just none of that. It's so poorly marketed, so it gets really hard to, I think, engage with someone and want to follow them if you know nothing about them. So I kind of saw that as, yeah, my niche. If I'm going into YouTube, I want to be as open as possible, basically as authentic with my videos, and pretty much just tell my story and let people follow along my journey as I like have these crazy goals and like try and work with them.
Well, it's working. It certainly is working. So, is there ever going to be like a ran to Ethiopia, or are you pretty set on Japan?
I like Japan, yeah. I mean, I have to change the whole channel. Can't go rebranding now. I'm in too deep. There's no choice to go back home now. So yeah, I think there's so much more in Japan for me to discover. Like, yeah, I've still not even been part of one of the pro teams or anything. They're super exclusive. Like, it's quite hard to sort of jump in with different groups. Whereas that's something that next year, if I can run at Tokyo around a 2:12, it would hopefully open up a lot of opportunities to train with some of these like elite guys, like sub 2:10 marathoners. So I think it's still like a whole different side that I want to learn.
And I will say then, lastly, and you can pass on this if you want, but with all of the mileage that you run, is there any room for a love life? I mean, she'd have to be a runner, we would assume, and then if you wanted to see her, y'all would have to run together, doubles to see each other twice a day. And she's like, we need to spend quality time together. That means y'all just run a quality session, or like, what is it? What does it look like for Jake?
Yeah, that's very true. The my lifestyle is pretty unique, I'd say. There was actually a very good quote, one of the best Japanese runners ever, this guy Toshihiko Seko. He had this famous quote where he said, "The marathon is my only girlfriend. I give her everything." And basically, yeah, he was just committed to like the monk lifestyle, training 3 times a day, like absolute machine. Um, but yeah, I'd say there's still time. I've got to work on my Japanese. That's the biggest barrier at the moment because the English speaking level here is like non-existent. You basically have no choice but to learn Japanese, which happens to be pretty much the hardest language in the world for English speakers. So I'm gradually getting there. I think now I'm finally over the initial bump. I can have like basic combos, but yeah, there's room for improvement. I guess the benefit if I've got a Japanese girlfriend, it's a free language teacher as well, so that could be a win-win.
Okay, sweet. Well, I'm trying to keep these this year short and sweet and a little peppier and a little funnier and stuff. So I appreciate you taking time between your runs to make time for some more YouTube. So it's been awesome talking to you, and I look forward to following along on the journey and rooting for you. Whatever race you're running, I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna get the app, and then like I'm just gonna watch you. It'll probably be in the middle of the night though, because you live in the future, and I'm just gonna be like watching you go through the course.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me on. It's been good fun. I like these questions. Yes, it's been fresh. Some different ones in there, which is always interesting. So yeah, thanks a lot, mate. Good luck with your run.
All right, thank you. Cheers.